going on, Canucks fans? Welcome back to episode 17 of Blackfish. We're done. The draft is officially over. We had our 5-hour live stream of the draft. Took a lot out of me. We needed an extra day to just sit back, relax, and watch day 2 and see what the Canucks did. I believe they made 7 picks yesterday, so they're probably a little bit more tired than we are. But my name is Tyson Cole. My co-host is Jake Fraser. We've got my regular co-host, Dave Hall, coming back from the draft today. So he will be back on the show for next week's episode on Wednesday. So make sure you tune in then to get all his opinions and his experience from the draft floor. Because it's super cool to be able to say to do that he went and covered. Anyway, Jake, how you doing, buddy? How are you calming down after that 5-hour live stream?
Oh, I had some family in town, had my nephews and my niece come over, just hung out. We played some video games, some F1 26. So yeah, it was a good time. And then, yeah, just nice to have a little bit of time with the family yesterday and got to watch the draft a little bit. And I'm very happy with how things turned out for the Canucks in this year's draft.
Well, let's just get right into it. Why don't we? We obviously we'll start in the first round because that's the most important. That's where you find your pivotal players that'll turn your franchise around more than often. It's pretty chalk the way it went at the top of the board. It went McKenna 1, Stenberg 2. You kind of knew the writing was on the wall once they traded Eklund that Stenberg was no longer going to be an option for the Canucks at 2. And then the draft really started at 3, and the Canucks, there were so many smoke screens. Like, I was seeing like some Vigo Bjork, and I was like, all right, that's maybe a little too far. But then Chase Reed, I was like, okay, I actually kind of believe that. But something I will note, I'm never going to listen to anything on draft day or on draft week ever again, because that's just smoke screen city. It was Malhotra the whole time. And then draft week comes and it's, oh, no, it's Chase Reed. No, it was always Caleb. He was always their guy. And I'll let you give your opinion on the pick before I dive into mine.
Yeah, I'm happy with the pick. Like we talked about it on the live. I don't necessarily know if I think Malhotra was the best player on the board. In fact, on my draft board, he wasn't the best player available. But that being said, I think what the Canucks did, and we'll dive into what they did later in the draft as well, but I think what they did is really shored up the center ice position. They've got their if Malhotra ends up being a 2C, I think you're fairly happy with that. I get you want something a little better at third overall, but I think if the guy ends up being your like a very good second line center, I think you're happy with that at the end of the day. And then you've got Braden Coots in the pipeline already. And then you add Brooks Riowski to that as well. Like, I think your second to fourth line down the middle is very solid for the future. And maybe next year you look, assuming you don't land a DuPont, you look to add that top line centerman. But I still think there's a world where Caleb Malhotra ends up being a first line centerman in the NHL. And it's because of the competitiveness that he plays with, the defensive reliability. I get that you maybe want a bit more offensive output from him. But with the way that he's been developing, we talked about this too. Like with the Chilliwack Chiefs, his point totals didn't really jump off the page. And then he goes through the OHL, which is a much tougher league, and he puts up incredible numbers. So his growth has been pretty exponential to this point. So I do still think the sky's the limit for him.
Yeah, I know on this show I have spoken about my hesitation on Malhotra and the pick at 3, and that was more to do with Stenberg. Like, if Stenberg was on the board, I think like that would have been that wouldn't have been the right pick. But after the first 2, there was kind of a tier of players and everything. And I mean, centers are the premium position in the NHL, that and right shot defenseman. So the fact that it was down to those 2, that's good. Like, they're drafting for proper need, right?
Yeah.
Or the premium positions. But yeah, there is something to say about NHL bloodlines, and you can't take away from what Caleb did this year. It was fantastic, and he was the best player on a team with so many first round picks and so many NHL drafted talent. So that was a good pick. And I mean, there are some late bloomers, right? Like T. Ginla did that. He didn't have a very good D-1 year and then popped off, went 6 overall. And now look at him. He's one of the best prospects in the Utah Mammoth pipeline. And that's what Caleb is now. I'm not so worried about the father-son thing. Who knows what's going to happen in 2 years when I do think Caleb needs some development time though, like 2 years probably in the NCAA, because I mean the the OHL is a different beast than the BCHL, and he went and dominated there. But then he's going to a new league in the NCAA against tougher competition. That might, he might need to get his feet wet a little bit, and it's going to be a much more physical brand of hockey because everybody's older, everybody's bigger, everybody's stronger. Like that's why players go to the NCAA, is to bulk up, right? So Caleb's going to have to do that already, though he has like a pretty good frame. But yeah, I think 2 years, because he's only had 1 year of good production. So let's see how he does in Boston University. I think he's going to be there with Tyne and Lawrence. So that'll be interesting to me to see like who's going to have the 1C role there. I'm not sure who is staying. So maybe there's somebody I'm unaware of. I haven't looked at the roster, but it'll be interesting to see how he lines up with Tyne and Lawrence, because Tyne and Lawrence was projected. He's been there before. He's played there already this year. So maybe he has the inside track. I don't know, but I don't hate the Caleb pick as much as I might have indicated on the show before. I'm excited for him. He's a good character kid. And what I think it does is, because, I mean, the sky's the limit. He could be a 1C if his full projection hits for sure. But if it doesn't, and everybody is kind of speculating that, oh yeah, maybe he's a 2C, and I don't know if you want to take that at third overall, but if you do, it kind of opens you up perfectly for next year, because now you didn't take the right shot defenseman, right? If you took the right shot defenseman third overall, you get first overall, you're going to take Landon Dupont anyway, because you should be taking best player available. But then does that push Reed down, and then is he pissed off, and yada, yada, yada. But now if you have like Coots and Malhotra as kind of your middle six for the future, then I mean, you're free up to take whoever, because there are 1Cs next year. As of right now, there's 1Cs. Like there's 3 of them, I think, next year. And then there's a top pairing right shot defenseman. So taking Caleb here opens it up really, really well for next year, that the Canucks can just be like, okay, we're not going to have any stress. We're going to be able to take somebody good, and they're going to fill the role that we still need. And this is a long process, right? So adding it, this is just the start. So if you can add a 2C like that, potentially be 1C, I mean, it's a good pick at the end of the day. Like it's a good pick. I rambled a little bit on. It was interesting to see that Chase Reed fell all the way to 7 though too. My opinion, like Daxon Rudolph was the shock of the draft at 4. My opinion though was like, he fell because no one thought he was going to be there, right? Like, so the Sabres probably had locked in on, okay, well, we're taking Rudolph no matter what, because Reed's going to be gone. And then Reed was there, and they're like, okay, well, now I fell in love with Rudolph, so we're taking Rudolph. Same thing with the New York Rangers and Albert Schmitz. Same thing with the Calgary Flames and Carson Karls. So yeah, I felt a little vindicated, though. I was like, yeah, Carson Karls went ahead of Chase Reed. I nailed that. But yeah, that was interesting. Now let's fast forward to 24. Adam Noatne. That was a slam dunk pick. Like I think or Ryan Johnson on the phone with Adam said like, yeah, we were trying to trade up to get you, but we were so thankful that you were there at 24 for us, because I mean, that was the slam dunk pick, right? I know a lot of us kind of wanted Mathis Preston. We'll talk about him a little bit later, but I mean, taking a 6'1" and at 1.25, I believe is what he came in at, 205-pound winger who can score. He had one of the best shots. David loved him. I think that was an A+ pick for the Canucks. He's got top 6 upside, top 6 scoring upside. I don't know if he's a power forward, but he does all the little gritty things, like goes against the wall or goes along the walls. He'll battle for you there in the trenches and everything. So I thought that was a great pick by the Canucks at 24.
Yeah, 100%. He kind of reminds me a little bit of Vasily Podkolzin in his draft year. Just kind of a bigger winger with good speed, a great shot. And the fact that you get him at 24, I think is pretty incredible. Like I said on the live stream, I had him 10 on my board. Like I am a big believer in Adam Noatne. I watched him a lot at the World Juniors this year. Obviously, he was excellent there. I thought maybe didn't produce at the level that you would hope, but just his overall game looked really good and really promising. And yeah, like I think there's legitimate top six upside there, and I think you might have just created 2/3 of your second line with Malhotra and Novotny. Like I think that's the future second line right there for the Vancouver Canucks, and I think the fact that you get that in the first year of your rebuild in the first round of the draft, I think you're pretty pleased with that first round.
Yep. Yep. That was a slam dunk. And I think a lot of pundits as well really like what the Canucks did, um, getting Caleb and getting Novotny. All right. You want to get to 33? Because we were doing the live stream. I was a little surprised that I was like, okay, Mathis Preston's there. Like, that's got to be the slam dunk pick, right? Like, he's got all the talent in the world. The Athletics prospect poll had Preston as the second highest talent in the draft according to his peers. Like, that's the pick. That's the pick, right? No. Canucks go with 6'7" centerman, right shot centerman, might I add, Brooks Riowski. What did you think about that pick?
I think it's a really solid pick. I think it's maybe not a high ceiling pick that we've seen with like an Adam Novotny, but I think that Rogowski, he's going to play in the NHL. He's got the size. He's a good enough skater. He's going to play in the NHL, and we saw this trade deadline. Michael McCarron goes for a second round at the deadline. I don't think that, like, I'm not saying this to say, oh, the Canucks drafted Rogowski so that they can flip him at the deadline in a few years, but I'm saying that they drafted him so that when they're in that contention window, they don't need to waste an asset and go out and get a player like Brooks Rogowski, like a Michael McCarron. I really love the pick. Yeah, 33 maybe was a little high, but given the size factor and everything, I don't think it was a reach by any means. I think it was around where he should have gone, and I'm pleased that the Canucks decided to go in that direction.
Yeah, I came up with a list, I think, after day one. Like, okay, I'm not. They have 2 picks in the next 9. If they pick any of these guys, I'm not going to be upset. And I listed 11 guys, and they ended up getting 2 of them from the list. But I had Mathis Preston at the top of it.
Mhm.
I do like Brooks Rogowski. Like 6'7", you can't teach size, right? He's like you said, he's going to play NHL games just based on his size, and he does have enough skill. But where I'm a little worried is like, you know, he's probably locked. Like he's locked in for sure. His floor is like a bottom 6, but he's got to really grow and develop his game to become anything more than that. And I know that I just think that for the 33rd overall pick, that's pretty much a first round pick, right? Like it's one pick off a first round pick, and you're taking a for sure bottom sixer. I would have liked to swing a little higher because the toughest thing to find in drafts is offense, right? That's why like all the offensive guys pretty much go early. So yeah, I would have just preferred a bigger swing than that. But I don't think Brooks Rogowski would have been there for them at 41 just based on his size and his profile. And it should be mentioned. Like I don't want to, poo poo on his offense too much. Like he put up what 40, 42, 43 points in 46 games, and for the Oshawa Generals team who wasn't very good. So yeah, we'll see how he develops. Like there are good examples of like those big towering forwards like a Tage Thompson and a Dean Letourneau who go late in the first round and they take a little while, but then they do develop. Like Dean Letourneau's on a great trajectory. The only difference I see is that like Tage Thompson and Dean Letourneau, they have like a wicked shot. And
Mhm.
Rogowski shot's fine, but it's not like the top level like one of those guys. So we'll see how he develops. But I think at the very least, like it was a safe floor pick. Um, but the problem is, I think like all of the Canucks picks so far were like floor. I know Noatne has a decent ceiling as a top sixer, but there was no home run swing yet. And so I thought there was a little meat left on the bone, but I mean, I'm not going to knock a 6'7" right shot defenseman, right shot center at 33. I think it's okay. I think I gave it a B plus, just because
Yeah.
of what was still on the board, but it was still a good pick, and he's going to play NHL games, so not gonna knock it too much. 41. Nicholas Aramolson, another one of Dave's guys. Like he must have been pumped on the draft floor when he heard Noatne, and then followed that up by Nicholas Aramolson. They kind of have similar profiles. They're both I believe Aramolson is 6'1", same as Noatne. A little lighter. I think he's in the 180 range, but he's got a shot, man. He can shoot. He can score from anywhere. He's a high volume shooter as well, so I think that was kind of something the Canucks were targeting, size and volume shooting, because they took Aramolson and Noatne. I liked it. Like I liked it. He was one of the 11 that I wanted to see the Canucks take, and they took him there. So I can't knock the pick. This is kind of the upside swing that I was hoping they would take at 33, but I mean, you get the floor guy at 33, and then you get the high upside swing at 41. I'm quite happy with the Aramolson pick. That's who I would have selected at that spot.
Yeah, I really like the pick too, and this was one where I think a lot of people thought, okay, Mathis Preston's still on the board. This is where the Canucks will take him. But I think the fact that they passed on him at 33, just it made me think, okay, they're probably out on Mathis Preston altogether, unless he takes a drastic fall down the board into like the third or fourth round, which obviously wasn't going to happen. So I figured they weren't going to go Mathis Preston here, but Aramolson, I honestly didn't expect them to take, just because of the fact that they took Riowski with the 33 pick. I thought it was going to be like a high floor defenseman here, but yeah, I'm really glad that they decided to go forward. They've focused on defense a lot in previous draft years, and I know it's a new regime, but they've got some okay defensemen in the pipeline in Abbotsford and Sawyer Minio and Kirill Kudryavtsev. Victor Mancini is another one. So I was glad that they decided to go 4 forwards with the first 4 picks. Really rebuild their forward prospects in their pipeline. And yeah, like I'm going to be working on an article after we finish recording this about the Canucks prospect pool, and now like their forward group and their prospect pool, it looks pretty good.
Yeah, that was definitely the area that they needed to address. So I'm happy that they went with 4 forwards as well, and they're all like, if Aramolson hits, because I think the first 3 are pretty well pegged to play NHL games.
Mm-hmm.
But if Aramolson hits, then you've got 4 forwards from the class. That is awesome. That is awesome. Yep. So I like that pick as well. Now we can kind of go a little bit more rapid fire on these next few guys. Dmitry Ivchenko. And I got to say, I ain't a goalie guy, but we had Quads on, and he did an article that he picked out 5 that he really liked based on, or that fit the profile that the Canucks might draft, and Ivchenko was not on that list. But I mean, he had really, really solid numbers. I believe it was in the 920s for save percentage, and I think 1.91 goals against average, and 4 shutouts in
Yeah.
19 MHL games. Like, that's nothing to scoff at. Like, those are good numbers. He's 6'3". I believe Quads had messaged Ian Clark about it, and he was like, yeah, he's toolsy, he's lengthy. So it's a good pick, and it kind of fits the profile that the Canucks typically draft. And it might have been a little bit of a reach, because according to Elite Prospects, they had him at 127, and the Canucks picked him at 28. So might have been a little high, but I mean, I do like the philosophy of always drafting a goalie kind of 2 every 3 years. They took Medvedev last year. He didn't properly develop as they might want. Just pulling up his Elite Prospects. Quality skating and refinement helped him outperform in his backup role, but are his tools and his role big enough for a higher pick? The Canucks obviously think that it was. So, yeah, he goes a few spots higher than EP had him, but not going to knock the goalie pick. Did you have anything to add on Ivchenko?
Yeah, just everything that I've heard is like obviously the measurables are good, 6'3", but he plays with a lot of poise. It seems he's athletic, so I like the pick. I also we've seen a lot of Russian goaltenders, like Russian goalies have been dominating the NHL the past few years. So I definitely don't mind having two of them in the pipeline now as your top two goaltending prospects. Um, but yeah, I think I was just surprised to see them take a goalie this early, considering that they took Medvedev in the second round last year and then now to take another in the third round this year. But yeah, I don't hate the philosophy by any means. Like you on goaltenders, you kind of have to take swings every year and hope that one pans out.
Yeah, yeah, not going to knock the goalie pick. I agree though. A little higher than I thought. I wasn't, or I was a little surprised they took a goaltender over a defenseman to start the draft. But
Mhm.
I mean, if Ian Clark likes this guy, we can't really knock it. Like it, that guy is the goalie guru. So I'm not gonna hate on the pick. Um, in the fourth round, 97th overall, they took Ilya Brizgalov, and he was kind of around the range according to Elite Prospects. They had him ranked 85, but he's an overager. Draft plus one. He was passed on last year after not a great year in the USHL, but then he goes over to Medicine Hat, scores 13 goals, 42 points, or 42 assists for 55 points in 64 games, playing with the Rucks over in Medicine Hat. I I have a take about overagers because we've seen even this year, like there was a few overagers that I really liked because I got to watch them in at the Memorial Cup, Matthias Vananen and Liam Lefay. And I was like, okay, like those will be like good swings in the third round for the Canucks to take because like I was impressed with what they did. But they go in the second round. And so you're kind of seeing overagers go a little higher than you would expect. And if so, everybody wants, or there's been some talk about, you know, we should move up the draft year to like 19 or whatever, just because like you look at the NFL and they go like all the players go to college first. And so you're picking guys who are from like 20 until like 25, right? So you have those extra years of development. So you actually know what the player has kind of become now. Um, and so some hockey pundits want that. Like they want to see a few more years so they know exactly who's going to hit. And so you can draft better, right? So that's why I just don't care about drafting overagers, right? Like it's fine to me because now you have another year development because like I said, it takes players some like a little bit longer. Like say you draft a year earlier, would would like Keaton Verhoff would go top 3, probably second, and like Caleb Malhotra would have been like a mid-round pick, right? So like you have those extra years of development. Breeze Galov's a year older, so now you kind of know what he's going to become. So I don't mind taking overagers, especially when he's 6'3.25", 216 pounds. That seemed to be what the Canucks wanted to hit on this year, is like bringing in size, and I think they definitely did that in Breeze Galov. The prospect summary for him, according to Elite Prospects: undrafted last year, this power playmaker had a breakout rookie year in the WHL, bringing a unique skill set that could fill a third or fourth line role. So finding depth guys who can hopefully play NHL games seems to be the MO for the Canucks this year.
Yeah, 100%. And I don't know necessarily if he will play NHL games, but because of the size factor, like it's a guy that you can take a shot at, and maybe he just ends up being a depth piece in the AHL. But because of that size, if he can pick up the foot speed and everything like that, like maybe he's your 13th forward. And I think when you're taking guys in the fourth, even the third round and later, you're just hoping that they can be really like that they can play NHL games. I think that's a sign of success if any of your guys after the third round play NHL games. So I definitely don't mind the swing. As to your overager point. Like I don't disagree with you at all. I just think I like that for later rounds. I don't necessarily like it for the earlier rounds just because they do have that extra year of development. And so I think it's a lot easier to dominate the league, like to dominate the WHL as a 19-year-old as opposed to a 17-year-old, right? So yeah, I don't mind it for the later rounds, and you get a clearer idea, like you said, of what that player is going to become. But yeah, just for the earlier rounds, I would typically go with draft year, or if they have a late birthday, like their first year eligible in the draft.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point, and that makes a lot of sense. But like we said, the fourth round here, I'm fine with it.
Yeah,
I'm fine with it. The only
yeah,
thing that Breeze Gallup needs to work on, like I don't believe he's an exceptional skater. Got to watch him at the WHL Top Prospects game, and I wasn't too impressed with the skating. He was kind of in more of a depth role, but um, yeah, he seems like a good. He's got tools, but is like it playmaking's good. Is he's got a decent shot. It just depends on, can he develop his skating enough to fork out like a bottom six role in the NHL. That'll be something we'll be watching for, um, and I'll be looking at Dev Camp this week. Um, Connor Davis goes in the fifth round. I got a little bit of a funny story, so I don't know how I messed this up. As soon as I saw the pick, I went on Elite Prospects. I was like, okay, Connor Davis. Connor Davis, found the guy. And I was like, I was like, why did the Canucks draft this guy? Like, he's a 5'8" winger. He's a double overager. Um, this doesn't make any sense to me. Like, why would they pick him? He was playing high school hockey, and sure, he had decent numbers, but like he wasn't anything good. Didn't think that, hey, Connor and Davis is a pretty common name. So I had looked up the wrong guy. That the Canucks didn't take that guy I was looking up. I wrote the whole article. I was like, yeah, I'm a little confused, blah, blah, blah. Like, he's playing high school in Delaware. Like, what are we doing here? Wrong guy. Complete wrong guy. Connor Davis, born in Quebec. He is an overager. 6 foot, 187 or 180, 187 pound right winger. He was playing in the USHL, 26 goals, 29 assists, 55 points, 59 games. Decent numbers. Going to the NCAA next year. Nodak. What I found interesting though is he didn't have an elite prospects page, or sorry, he does have an elite prospects page, but he wasn't in the draft guide for this year. But since he's an overager, they do have something on him last year. A dual threat scorer, Davis's motor, willingness to isolate and create one-on-one advantages, and his shooting skill drive his game. He protects the puck through hip pocket holds, targets defensive triangles. While he struggles to consistently win inside positioning, he rarely gives up on a play. So that dog, that compete, is something that you're going to get out of Connor Davis in this pick.
Yeah, and that's what we saw with them taking Gabe Sherrod as well last year. Just taking guys with high motor, not necessarily the biggest guy in the draft, but 6 foot 187. That's a decent sized frame for a younger guy. And yeah, I think the fact that he's going to North Dakota as well next year, that says quite a bit about him too. The kind of player he is. Like that's not an easy school to go play for after just 1 year in the USHL. So I I'm excited to see what he can do at North Dakota next year. Obviously, he'll be teammates with the Ruck Twins 2 years from now after they finish their next year at Medicine Hat. So yeah, we'll be able to kind of compare how he matches up to those two in a couple of years from now.
Yep. Yep. We'll see how he does. And it's a late swing. We'll we'll
Yeah.
we'll be watching his development and everything. Um, Sixth round here. They had the first pick in the sixth round. They traded it to the Maple Leafs for a fifth rounder next year. Good value. Good value. Not gonna
Yeah.
scoff at that. But their first pick in the sixth round, because they made two. Tell me if I'm pronouncing this right. Lucien Bernat. I
Yeah,
believe that's how you say it.
yeah, that's
Six
about
foot
right.
3.5, right winger, 201 pounds. Canucks drafted size this time, and Todd Harvey even admitted, like, he was instructed, yeah, let's get some size. So that was the point of the draft here. According to Elite Prospects, he was he was not ranked. but this is the prospect summary. Shoot first winger with solid physical tools and size to boot. Can he build on top of the power forward flashes we saw at the U18s? At the U18s, he had 1 goal, 4 points in 7 games, but he was playing over in the Liga this year, Tapera U20 League. He had 15 goals, 31 points in 37 games. So another forward, don't mind the swing, power forward build. We'll see if he can develop. Did you have anything else on him?
No, it just says here that he's supposed to go to the Owen Sound Attack next season in the OHL. So that'll be interesting to see him come over to North America. But no, I don't have a ton to add on him as a player.
Sounds good, because I really want to get to this guy, the other 6th round pick. And Dave's getting all the hype because he was high on Noatne. He was high on Aramolson. The Canucks take him. Well, let's just back up a little bit. When we were doing our late round gems and goalies with quads, you can check that episode. We did an honorable mentions thing at the very end, and I had Samuel Ericson as an honorable mention to take a swing on in the late rounds. I have the timestamp too, 101:22. You can go back and listen to it. I believe, what was it, episode 13? 13? Something like that. Episode 12 or 13. Goalies and late round gems featuring David Quadrelli. Go back and listen to it, because I said Samuel Ericson. Just based on his size, man. Like 6'6", left shot defenseman, 212 pounds. He kind of reminded me of DPD. His skating isn't fantastic, but he does have those NHL traits, and he's a physical defenseman. That's why I think he's kind of like a DPD. Elite Prospects had him ranked 144. The Canucks got him at 184, I believe. I can't read my chicken scratch. But I mean, there was some other, I can't remember exactly the names, but some of the athletic guys, like someone had him at 58, and the Canucks were able to get him at the mid to end of the 6th round. So incredible value there. Elite Prospect says massive defenseman with defensive first mindset and decent smarts. Becoming quicker and even more imposing physically would be wonders to his NHL outlook. So it's a swing. But you're taking a 6'6" left shot defenseman who's physical. He's got some bone crushing hits. You can go look up online. I really like this pick, obviously, because I had mentioned it as a potential swing. So you had another DPD like defenseman into the system. I'm pretty happy with that.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, just looking at the rankings here, like Elite Prospects was much lower on him than a lot of other people were. Like even NHL Central Scouting had him ranked 31st among European skaters. So I don't hate the pick at all. I mean, in the 6th round, you're, like I said earlier, you're hoping to get a guy that can just play NHL games, and the size that he has, like he could turn into a 7th defenseman at some point in the National Hockey League. Obviously, he's more likely to spend his career playing either in Sweden or in the AHL. But yeah, I like the size. It reminds me a little bit of the Basile Sansones pick a few years ago in the 7th round. But I think this guy's a better player than he was when the Canucks decided to take him in the 7th round. So yeah, I like the swing.
Yep. And hey, I'll take my victory lap if he gets into the NHL a few years down the road. But all in all, what did you think of the draft? Like, if you had to give it a letter grade?
I think I'd give it an A. I think the Canucks nailed the 1st round. They did a very good job in the 2nd, and then I think they filled out the rest of their class with some pretty solid, like some guys who project to be pretty solid players.
Yep, I agree. The thing, they got size. That's what they wanted, and they accomplished that. I don't believe they drafted anybody under 6 foot in the class, so they stuck to their guns. I will say what I am, and I'm going to be writing about this over on CanucksArmy. I believe it'll come out tomorrow. But so there's a new regime in town, right? but the Canucks didn't really change their draft philosophy. They drafted kind of the same way. And I want to go back to so the Canucks, I don't want to say it's a problem, but I'm just a little worried because let's go back to 2020, because I think that's the first year that Todd Harvey kind of took over, right? So at that time, look at the roster. They had like Petey, Miller, Horvat, like they were good down the middle of the ice, right? So they're like, okay, we don't need to draft a center. We need defensemen, right? So from 2020 to 2024, I think over half of their 29 picks were spent on a defenseman, and they only drafted 5 centers. And then, but none of those 5 centers were picked above the 4th round. So you're getting like the Ty Muellers, Damon Gardners, Matthew Perkins, Riley Patterson. And I mean, Riley Patterson and Ty Mueller, good picks, because I mean, Riley Patterson's trajectory is going really well right now, and Ty Mueller's played NHL games. So I'm not going to knock the picks, but they didn't need a center at that time, and so they didn't take any, and all they did is take defensemen. And now you fast forward, you've taken all defensemen, right? And so now you're good there, but now you need centers because you didn't draft any for 4 straight years. And then, so it's just like, I don't want to say it's not forward thinking, but it's not like, you still have to draft those guys even if you're deep at the position, right? Like you still have to take some swings here and there. And so that's what I'm kind of a little worried about, because you're still seeing it. Like even last year, and I'm not going to knock their draft last year, they got Braden Coots, but what was the glaring need? Center, right? So they spend 4 of their 6 picks on a center: Braden Coots, Kieran Dervin, Wilson Bjork, Matthew Lansing. And then this year, like they need forwards, right? And so 8 or 7 of their 9 picks were on forwards, and they just spent 1 on a defenseman. So like, and they didn't take a single defenseman last year. And then the year before that, in 2024, they took 2 defensemen: Parker Alkos in the 6th round, Basile Sansonens in the 7th round. Like, yes, just because you're good on defensemen right now, because that's all you drafted the last few years, like this is going to catch up with you again. It has continued to catch up with you, right? And now, like, you're deepest at defense. I wouldn't be surprised if they traded a defenseman for center help right now or something like that, right? So you're just seeing a trend where they're drafting for what they need right now, and then in a few years, that's not going to be what they need, and then they're going to need defensemen, and then they're not going to have any coming up in the pipeline because all they've focused on is forwards and centers and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. My hope is that this year was just inject some talent into the forward group, and then next year it's just best player available, every single pick, build out the pipeline with everything, because they do need everything. Like they're not shirt up on defense for the next 5 years. Like they still need, like they're going to need a Marcus Pettersson replacement. They're eventually going to need a Philip Hronek replacement. You don't have really a solidified right shot defenseman for your third pairing for next season either. So they do still need defensemen. But yeah, like this year they desperately needed forwards and high end forward prospects. So I understand why they did it. But yeah, that's just my hope for next year, is just inject as much talent as you can into the system. Doesn't matter what position they are.
Yeah, you make a good point. You're going to need those 2 replacements: Marcus Pettersson, Philip Hronek. And I'm not knocking the Canucks' defensive prospects pool, because, I mean, they've got DP, Mancini, Bouillon, Willander. Like, they've got young defensemen already playing on the roster. But, like, who are your best defensive prospects right now? It's Sawyer Minio and Kirill Kudryavtsev. But after that, there's a significant drop-off. So you still need defensemen. And the fact that they didn't draft any until the 7th or 6th round with their very last pick this year, it's like, okay, you're seeing a trend, and I'm not liking the trend because over the last 6 drafts hasn't been necessarily working out for you. It's just robbing Peter to pay Paul, like with the defense and forwards and center position. Like I just hope it doesn't bite them in the butt, because it continues to bite them in the butt, and they're continuing to do it. So we'll see what their draft strategy is next year. Maybe instill some defensemen, even though you have some good ones in the on the roster right now that are young and project to play on the next best team. But that was just something that I was a little worried about. Also, like, I don't know. I know there was an emphasis on taking size this year, but like, and I think you got pretty lucky that you were able to get size with skill, but that was just because you were picking at the top of the draft, right? So you were able to land like a Malhotra and a Noatne and an Aramolson, right? Whereas normally where they pick, they wouldn't be able to, but they would still take size over skill. And I still think they did that. Like, I don't want to knock the Brooks Riowski pick, but if you want skill, Mathis Preston would have been the pick there, but you'd pick the size. So they're still continuing, like, Danila Klimovich over Logan Stankoven. That's been talked about a bunch. There was another example that's I can't. Oh yeah, Tom. Well, no. There's other examples there that they could have gone skill over size, and they continued to do it again this year. So I'm just worried. You know, it's the same draft strategy, even though it's the same regime, and so we'll see how it works out. But that drafting for what they need right now is kind of this thing that I wanted to harp on, because it's I don't know, it's bit him in the butt before and looks like it's going to do it again. Anyway, yeah, I guess just any other draft takeaways. Like, who do you think might have had outside of the Canucks? Because I think we both are kind of in the same camp. Like a draft, like it was good, and when you're picking that high, and if you didn't get an A draft, then you really flunked it, right? So that was kind of the expectation coming in. So it's happy to see that they still walked away with an A draft, and 4 good forwards that hopefully could make an impact at the NHL level. But who else around the league do you were you like, dang, that was an impressive draft? And no, you can't say the San Jose Sharks, because that's the obvious pick, and that's the low hanging fruit.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say the San Jose Sharks because I mean they get they get Stenberg, Verhoff, and Ryan Lynn. Like that's pretty incredible. But
Unreal.
I like the St. Louis Blues draft for the most part. I think they took particularly I like their 6th round pick, Lars Steiner. I had him ranked much higher than 171, and so yeah, I like that pick. Colin Fitzgerald in the 7th round, I think, is a solid pick as well. And then they also get their middle 6 centers of the future in Tynan Lawrence and Maddox Dejanay in the 1st round. Like I think that was a very solid draft from them. And then yeah, I don't know. I think Toronto had a good draft. I know you like their draft, so I'll let you dive into.
Whoa! You can't steal mine.
No, I'm not stealing yours. That's why I'm giving it over to you.
Yeah, Toronto killed it, and I'm even like, let's just not. We won't even bring up the Gavin McKenna pick, but they picked like all the guys that I really liked it as like 2nd and 3rd round targets. Like, they must have been listening to Blackfish. I get it. What's up, Chaika? Alexander Bilecki. I think he's gonna be good. He was a little overshadowed in Kitchener this year with all the top 4. They had a solid top 4, so he kind of got shunned to the 3rd line. But when he was on the ice, he was making an impact. So I like that pick. Ethan McKenzie. He's a double overager, but we saw him at World Juniors for Canada. He was awesome. Zach Olson, big power forward who can score. Mans Goodmunson, that was a good one. And then Juuso Inasto, that was Quad's favorite goalie prospect this year based on his research and everything. So that was a good pick as well. And I mean, that was 25 picks that that was within 25 picks. They had 5 picks, and they nailed, in my mind, they nailed all of them. I like all of their picks. And then obviously they get the best player in the draft in Gavin McKenna. So I thought they were the clear winners along with the Sharks. And then I think the Canucks are up there too. Yeah. All right. Well, I think that'll wrap it up for this episode. We just wanted to kind of go over the Canucks picks, give our opinion on who they are, what they project to be, and all in all, I think it was a solid draft for the Canucks, and I'm excited to see these guys at Dev Camp this upcoming week. see how they're going to do and see how they see the character, because that seemed to be what the Canucks really were looking for in this draft. And I'll just be like holding my microphone up like this because they're all massive. They're all bigger than me. So should be interesting. Make sure to check out Canucks Army for all the exclusive interviews there. We will be back with our regularly scheduled episode of Blackfish on Wednesday. For Jake, I'm Tyson. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of Blackfish.